Doctor Who is always changing, always new, the never-ending possibilities of possibility, and that's what we love about it. But sometimes the show revisits old faces, old plots, and of course, old villains. Doing a sequel to anything is always tricky, with people going to be more critical and comparing a lot more the second time around. With The Well being a sequel set hundreds of thousands of years later and a bit of a bigger budget, did it live up to its original? What new things were added and which one is better?
Just crossed a diamond planet called Midnight. What could possibly go wrong?
Hello guys, welcome back to New Who HQ. Today we're going to discuss a few bits comparing between The Midnight and The Well. And I'm not just going to speak about which one is better, but I'm going to go through the similarities, the differences, a few Easter eggs that we see, and I also did a poll on my community page about which episode do you guys prefer. Now, if you watched my original review, you will know that I wasn't the biggest fan of The Well, and I have now re-watched The Well this morning, and whilst I don't like it as much as the average person seems to, I have warmed to it a little bit more. But firstly, if you're new to the channel and you'd like to subscribe and give this video a like, that would help me out massively. Let me know your thoughts in the comments of what you thought of The Well and if it's better than Midnight for you. Firstly, let's get into some similarities between Midnight and The Well. First one being is that there was a sacrifice from a non-companion. We know from The Well that the captain, the head of the squadron, head of that army people, and also both the companions sacrificing themselves sadly didn't get rid of the problem. Yeah, in Midnight it got rid of the problem for about 11 seasons, but I mean, it wasn't defeated despite both of them characters committing suicide to try and get rid of the entity. Another one is the Doctor and companion separation. Throughout The Well, there were times where Belinda and the Doctor were separated. Obviously, it's very different to Midnight because Donna was literally at the start of the episode and at the end. She was not actually in the events of what was happening in Midnight for 98% of the episode. But still, there were moments where the doctors were finding out about things while they were not together. But also, it is a little bit of a difference. Another one is the space that they use. Whilst the locations are massively different, the majority of what happens is in one room. In Midnight, it's simply just the night bus, and it's a very small space, and whilst The Well has more locations used, the majority of the action that's happening with the Midnight entity is in, yet again, quite a small, reasonably small room. Another similarity is the unresolved threat. Both times, the Midnight entity was not defeated. It still remains a mystery about what it can truly do, what it truly is, and where it is as well. That's a big thing. So yeah, but there are a few differences as well. We found out the creature's methods are massively different. Whilst in Midnight, basically the only ability it really shows is to steal voices to manipulate the infected. The Well portrays it more physically and more forceful by throwing people around a room. Now, for me personally, I love it when a villain plays mind games, and for me there was more of a storyline, more of like a timeline of how the Midnight entity takes over someone, which keeps us in suspense. You've got, it repeats you, it then gets closer to matching you, it then matches you, and then it speaks before you speak, it takes over you. Whilst in The Well, it kind of just throws people around. We know that obviously the people that were there before, they could have done other things, but we know that they were shooting everybody, so it was always doing the same thing, the entity. But in Midnight, it was doing different things. Yes, in Midnight it was learning, whilst in The Well it would have learned everything already, but I still would have liked to see something a little bit different. Another thing is, would The Well have worked without it being a sequel? It could have just, you know, if you take away the bit where it's revealed that it's the Midnight entity, you wouldn't really know. You take that out and it could have just been a normal monster. I don't think it works better. I just feel like it's got more pressure being a sequel because you compare it more, like I am right now. So, I've highlighted some main things from the two episodes and marked them out of 10 of which one I think is better. Firstly, starting off with which one was scarier. I gave Midnight a 4 out of 10 because I wouldn't class Midnight as scary, more chilling, more like a thriller. Yeah, there aren't massive amount of jump scares in Midnight, whilst in The Well we know that when the creature sort of glimpses from behind Alice's back, that and the beats of from the audio, that makes it quite a chilling, scary moment. So there's more sort of jump scares in The Well, whilst in Midnight there isn't. Again, this doesn't make it positive or negative, it's just The Well was more scary. And I gave The Well a 7 out of 10 for how scary it was. The effects in Midnight, I gave a 5 out of 10, simply because you didn't really need to use a lot of effects. Like, apart from the sequence where the bus is crashing, and you know the camera's going all over the place and there's people flying all over the room, which isn't obviously not easy to do, but you haven't got to use a lot of effects. Whilst in The Well you've got people thrown across the room, you're using more locations, it's bigger scale, so more special effects are obviously going to be used. So I gave the effects in Midnight a 5 out of 10, whilst The Well got an 8 out of 10. The script, I gave the script for The Well a 6 out of 10. I think it was pretty solid, and I liked how they bounced off between the mystery box of what's happened to the Earth, why does actually nobody know what the human race is anymore, and then turning straight towards the Midnight Entity. I quite like that. But for me, I gave the Midnight episode an 8 out of 10 for its script, simply because it is not easy to write that script and be repetitive. Another thing is, Midnight hardly cuts away. It's got very, very little cutaways. You've got cutaways with people within the same room, but you can't have too much of a dramatic moment to then cut away because everyone's in the same room. Whilst in The Well, you have the Doctor going off and finding out about the diamonds and what Midnight Entity, and finding all about that, and then you have Belinda catering to Alice. So you've got them cutaway scenes. So I feel like the script, it's harder for the script because you've got to keep everyone engaged, because you haven't got that sort of cutaway to go off and then come back to it. You've got to keep everybody in the story so they don't lose interest. The acting, I gave The Well a 7 out of 10. I feel like Belinda and the Doctor are really, really good in this. The soldiers, army people were kind of very, like, I didn't see enough of them to really comment on their acting, but overall it was pretty solid. But for me, the acting in Midnight gets a 9.5 out of 10, simply because of how hard it is to speak together like that, and the Doctor acting possessed. I mean, David Tennant's obviously one of the best actors of our generation, but to act possessed, be stone cold, you see his face, you know, that is good acting. To keep that face in that scene is not easy to do, so the acting there does win for me. And the best episode overall for me, I gave The Well a 5 out of 10. Bearing in mind that's on a rewatch, I gave The Well a 3 out of 10 initially, whilst Midnight for me gets an 8 out of 10. And I'm not the biggest fan of Midnight as everybody else normally is, but for me, I do appreciate it. I also appreciate the references that were in this episode. Toxic being played, everyone loves a little bit of Britney Spears, but that was a hint to Series 1's End of the World of Christopher Eccleston when that was played. Something on Your Back was mentioned throughout the episode, which is obviously a reference to Season 4's Turn Left. So we can see here with 63 votes, sorry if you vote after this has gone out, it will not count, but Midnight does win by quite some way with 79% for Midnight, whilst The Well received 21%. We also did get a couple of comments. Midnight, but please understand it isn't an either or thing. They're both fantastic. I was on the edge of my seat this whole episode and it blew my mind. It was so scary. I watched it with a friend and his wife and we agreed this is the best episode of the season so far, and it's ramping up to be a great set, to be a set of great episodes. Yeah, of course, I don't like The Well as much as other people, but I completely understand why people like it. For me, it took me in and out of the suspense, but I do understand that it has some scary scenes which can linger for the next suspenseful moment. We also got Midnight and the original Angels episode. Generally terrified me as a 17-year-old when I watched them on TV. Yeah, I was about 3 or 4 when I watched them, so you can imagine I was also terrified. But thank you very much everybody that voted in that and participated in that poll. But, of course, will we see the Midnight Entity ever again? But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments of what you thought between the Midnight and The Well. Of course, I don't like to compare episodes because they're so wildly different sometimes, but this is a direct sequel, so I'm allowed to compare. If you're new to the channel and you'd like to subscribe, that would help me out absolutely, massively. Give this video a like, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Goodbye.